decision to move King Edward to the Charlie's campus was made in 1968. And the committee, called the Moving Committee, was established in 1968. All my career, King Edward's been moving to Charlie's, but now it looks like it really is happening. I think one of the things that precipitated it was, we told the Minister that we were, 2 years ago, that we were thinking of holding a half-centenary celebration dinner, and would he like to come? He said, I would. He said, what's it about? I said, it's the half-centenary celebration of the decision to move King Edward. And which he said to me, John, he said, if you do that, it's the only thing that's going to get you sacked. So there was no dinner, but we got $1.8 billion. One of the challenges with this, of course, is that we are near the Rose Garden. And the Rose Garden that you guys maintain, and everybody's very aware of the fact you maintain this, isn't coming with us. There are many souls in that Rose Garden. If you go there on Mother's Day, you'll see how important that is to the people of Western Australia. So thank you very much for maintaining it, and we will do all that we can to honour this. It sits just next to Harvey House. Harvey House was the original King Edward, the original reform school for women who'd lost their way, which means pregnant out of wedlock. That's how King Edward began. And that's on some of the $50 notes. It's one of the most important buildings in Australia. So we've got a lot of work to do maintaining Harvey House and its history. And Edith Cowan's story should be in there as well. Mary Rain should be in there as well, along with the Rose Garden. So we've got some history to build up and maintain in that story. I'd love to talk to you about COVID-19 and pregnancy, but I don't have time. But I would just like to say that it's indeed a great honour to speak to you guys. And in the years to come, when I slow down, I may well be sitting in one of those seats there if you'll have me. So thank you very much. I've told you a little bit about how my life was not to explore Lassiter's Reef, but just to explore the previously unexplored continent of life before birth, and how it's now resulting in a national program to prevent the major cause of disease in young children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. We didn't get the membership application for that. Questions. John has to go at 8:25 to get to work, so we've got a couple of minutes. So,
yeah, right.
Jill.
I was interested in why the incident.
You'll need a mic, I think.
Yeah, sorry.
Just interested in why the incidence of preterm births has increased, and particularly in the Indigenous population.
Right, so the Indigenous story is a 1-hour talk, but it's about belonging. So African American women have a 15% preterm birth rate, same as Indigenous Australians, and we know that lower rate. If you provide them with a cocooned antenatal care program with a midwife and Indigenous healthcare workers, the best of the grandmothers, you can lower the rate of preterm birth down to about 8%. So it's about belonging and feeling safe. In the rest of the community, the late preterm birth rate, 36, 37 weeks, has risen dramatically, and that's due to inappropriate medical intervention out of fear of stillbirth, inappropriate fear of stillbirth. Delivery at 36, 37 up to 39 weeks gestation increases your risk of behavioural and learning problems at school age. Directly, it's profound. We now know this. The rate of preterm birth at 36, 37 weeks is the direct cause of much of the learning and behavioural problems in school-age children. We have virtually an emergency to blow.
Does that mean the intervention of caesareans on demand a cause of that?
So birth before 39 completed weeks of pregnancy dramatically increases the risk of behavioural problems in children and lifelong learning. So it's not about the mode of delivery, whether it's caesarean or vaginal birth, it's the age at which you're born. 1/3 of brain growth occurs between 35 and 39 weeks gestation. If you deliver a baby at 37 weeks, you've stolen half of that brain growth from it. It can't recover.
John, during the course of your study, DNA profiling came in. Have you been able to build that into the study somehow?
Well, the RAIN study involves full genetic analysis of all the participants in the RAIN study, so the answer is very much so. So your DNA is important, but it's what sits on the DNA is what really counts. So the DNA is like a map of roads. It doesn't tell you whether those roads are used or not, or whether they're still in use. On top of your DNA sits what's called your epigenetics. Our epi is Greek for on top of. So on top of the genetics sits another set of instructions as to whether a gene is to be read or whether it's rubbish. Most of our genes are not read. So the epigenetic work is what is influenced by our experience of our ancestors and our own experiences before we're born. That's the epigenetics of it. But thanks for your question. And that's much harder than DNA work, than straight DNA work. Yeah, up the back.
I know you promised not to talk about COVID, but just a quick question on COVID. Has there been early work or exploration on linkages between preterm birth and responses to COVID, survivability, those kinds of things?
Right, thank you very much, Rob. Now I'm going to talk about COVID. So in March of this year, we were terrified that when COVID came. Ward 6, again, the top floor of King Edward was going to empty. It was going to become a 30-ventilator intensive care unit for pregnant women. With the H1N1 flu epidemic in 2009, we were in the Charlie's ICU every night. Miscarriages, stillbirths, preterm labour rapidly followed the H1N1, and we thought that's what we were heading for. We thought we were heading for catastrophe. And as the months went by, it became evident that the COVID pandemic expressed in Wuhan and then London and New York. There were no publications coming out on miscarriages or stillbirths or preterm labours. And I was feeling very responsible. I was seeing Australian of the Year last year, and I had all this travel cancelled. So I thought, well, one thing I can do is put out a weekly COVID update for pregnant women in Australia and New Zealand, which I did through the Australian of the Year program in Canberra, our college in Melbourne, and our various other bodies. I did one as a test experiment, saying this is a 2-minute description of where we are with COVID-19 in pregnancy, and it had 20,000 hits in 48 hours. So I then did it on a regular basis because I thought catastrophe was coming our way, but it didn't. We now know that COVID-19 can't cross the human placenta. We're very, very lucky. The receptor called the SARS-2 receptor on the placenta that would allow it to pass isn't there, so it can't cross. And then the second thing is that you die from COVID-19 heavily from an exaggerated immune response. It's called a cytokine storm. A fetus before 20 weeks gestation cannot mount a cytokine response. So before 20 weeks, it can't get sick from it anyway. It's not getting across. It's like syphilis. Syphilis cannot affect a fetus until 20 weeks of pregnancy because syphilis doesn't hurt us. It's our response to syphilis that causes the problem. After 20 weeks gestation, however, syphilis is very, very dangerous for an unborn baby. The same would be true with COVID, but COVID can't get across. And that's why COVID has not caused miscarriage, has not caused stillbirth, and does not cause preterm labour. It causes preterm birth because a pregnant woman can get respiratory problems just like anybody else. In fact, she's more likely to need ventilator support because her abdomen restricts her breathing. And so you have to empty her uterus by caesarean section to enable ventilation. So, but that's all late in pregnancy. It's all late pregnancy stuff. It's respiratory driven. It's not transplacental passage driven. Thank you. Yeah.
John,
Yeah.
You may know that Rotary is very interested in fetal alcohol syndrome.
Yes.
And I was wondering where your interventions in these preterm things sit with helping with overcoming fetal alcohol syndrome.
Yeah, so as part of our outreach program to lower the rate of preterm birth, we've done the Fitzroy Crossing and Derby, etc. As you know, there is a cycle of socioeconomic deprivation and social determinants of health. So where in that cycle are you going to intervene? So the cycle is deprivation, exposure to alcohol before you're born, which has a profound effect on brain development, behavioural learning problems, early life pregnancy, recurrent pregnancy, substance abuse, obesity, diabetes, etc., etc. This is the cycle of despair. where in that cycle can you intervene? Where do we have a shot? Well, one spot we've got a shot is preterm birth, because preterm birth is rampant in those communities, and we have treatments to prevent preterm birth. So my approach to this cycle of despair is to go for the one spot I think we can break into the cycle, and that is preterm birth prevention, and that is new. And so we've just published the fact that we've lowered the rate of preterm birth in the Kimberley, and I think that's a very important finding. Tackling fetal alcohol syndrome is very, very hard, as you know. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I've run out of time, so sorry. It's 8:30.
Thanks, John. That was fantastic. Great explanation of all the things that you have done. As you know, one of the other major causes of disability worldwide has been polio, and Rotary has aimed to abolish polio worldwide, and by ensuring immunisation of as many people as possible. And so, in honour of your talk, this club will be donating 2 polio plus to increase the immunisation against polio. Thank you. Thank you very much.
If we be excused, I've broken the golden rule going past 8:30, but I noticed nobody was getting fish.